Right, they don't want loads of soak, these stones, so I'll just give them, I mean they've probably had about 10 minutes, but I'll take them out now they've had a bit of a soak. You don't have to soak them, you can just use them as splash and go. Just let a bit of water sit on top of them, and it pretty much stops soaking in quite quickly and you're ready to go. But I've just found they do feel a little bit better if you give them a bit of a soak. But they're not meant to be left in water, these is it magnesium, I think, bonded stones. But I'll just show you how I've started with my water stone sharpening. There's loads of different methods. You'll see people with single bevels coming back like that, or sharpening like that on an angle, holding the bevel like that. But I tend to, obviously my knives are a double bevel at the moment, and a sort of adapted convex flat grind with a very thin sort of 1/10 of a mil on the edge, and then a 12-degree bevel per side. So it doesn't take a lot, but I get to get the angle. I've taken, to start with, I took measurements with a protractor and different widths blade, and so I just get a rough idea. The consistency is more important than the exact angle you're holding at. But for this width blade, I'm looking for about 12 degrees, something like that, between 10 and 12. If it drops a bit, that's okay. 12 seems quite good though, it seems to hold that very well. I'm using my thumb as a guide, so it's about 3/4 of the way by the time I get back up there on my thumb. Obviously when you get down to the tip, to hold that angle, you're dropping down a bit, so but use your thumb as a guide, so you know when you're hitting the back there you want to be about that, and you can hold that through the tip as well. You can see when you're hitting that point it's about 3/4 of the way up your thumb. Obviously if the knife is narrower, then you're going to be sort of halfway up the thumb, something like that. But it's just having a guide on each individual knife that you can make a very consistent bevel going through the progression of stones that you're using. So I'll just quickly set the bevel on. I'm really just knocking the corners off on this stone. Doesn't really take a lot. Using a bit of pressure to set an even bevel. I'll just get it so I can feel there's an edge there. Oops, twisted there. And I find it easier now to go on a slight diagonal. Sometimes it's easier to start, I mean that's got an edge there now. You know, when you very first start it might be easier to start at the back and do it in sections like that. It doesn't matter, as long as there's consistency. You'll find you might get lines, especially on the very coarse stones, from doing it sectionally and then trying to wash it in diagonally. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting consistent results, and that sectional method of learning will lead up to going more on a diagonal, which tends to be more efficient, more consistent. Okay, that's that stone. I can feel an edge there already, probably lots of burr on there, but I'm not worried about that just yet. So now I'll start properly setting the bevel. I still think I'm setting the bevel on 1K. I don't think 1K is anything like a polishing stone. I'm still making that bevel even, using reasonable pressure, and then I'll worry about the burr in a minute. They can feel a little bit gritty, these stones, if you use a lot of pressure, but they seem to get better and better. Like when you buy them, and then you've got to flat them right down. I mean, I've done it a couple of times with these stones now, and I've read as well that they've got some hard, sort of crusty deposits when you first get them. on the surface layer of them, and you've got to flatten them a good amount to get to the really nice creamy bit of the stone, and they just seem to get better and better. And I am really impressed with these chiseras, just from a speed and efficiency point of view, and it being and they don't dish very easily at all. From my point of view, that's exactly what I need. So I'll spend a good bit of time. If you're using minimal stones, you've really got to check you're not leaving a burr, and check you've hit the bevel all the way along. Just needs a little bit more at the back there. And I'll test it. I'll get it as good as I possibly can on this 1K before moving on. I'll try to keep this video fairly quick as well. It's take absolutely ages to upload for some reason. Okay, that's there, so I'm just going to actually take a nice back stroke there, and then take a forward stroke on the opposite side. Do the same on that side. Let's just start to take the burr off. I'll just take some very light forward strokes, and now use my cork. On water, and it's just using polishing pressure now, just to try and eke the most out of this 1K stone. Notice there's no slurry. You can raise a slurry with these stones. It's not. It changes the feel of it slightly, but they're such good cutting consistent stones that you don't need the slurry, which makes them nice and clean to use. So that's getting there now. Just dry that off and have a look at the edge and test it on paper, which should be the first, just to check that it is actually an edge all the way along, and it means it's a nice flat. I can see through the loupe, it's a nice flat, even bevel. I can't see any burr or swarf. I'll just test it on paper, and just like a little bit like mist will just stop. Might be need a bit more at the back possibly. I think it's alright. So that's about what I'd expect for. I could probably eke a bit more out of the stone, but that's good. So I'll move up to my 5K stone. And again, I'll use reasonable pressure to get things going. It does seem a versatile stone, this 5K. It's really quick if you apply a bit of pressure, and it does leave a distinct scratch pattern. I still wouldn't call it a polishing stone, but it's a very refined edge. But it's I don't know. It's hard to describe. That just is completely a polished. That's a 12K, obviously, but it's different to my slate stone. That slate stone provides a very hazy. There's no real distinct scratch pattern. It's just a haze, and then going through these nagaras, it just gets gradually less hazed and more into a polished, a very nearly sort of mirror polished finish by the time you get up to the 12K. But that's not necessarily what you want for a kitchen knife. I mean, I would call this 5K a toothy edge. And although it's a very refined, smooth edge, it's still got teeth. And that really starts to work. I really like this stone now. Wasn't sure about it at first. You can just gradually change the pressure and it just gets really silky. And it becomes more of a polishing stone as you very light pressure. But it still raises a burr, it's very quick. Leaving the stones in the water because it's fall apart, and I can feel that's there. It's a sticky. It's making a nice sticky feeling, like at the beginning of a nice sticky edge, razor sharp edge. But I've got to keep deburring because I started on pressure on there and that. And now I'm just going to use polishing pressure. And I'll do the back strokes. A few more polishing strokes. Okay. What I was doing for a minute there. I'm far from an expert on this, but I've found a way to get really nice consistent results, and I don't think it's as steep a learning curve as you think it is, really. It seems quite a natural progression, so hopefully this will get a few more people thinking about going the Waterstones method, which ultimately is a better system once you know how to do it. Look at that. After this I'm only using very light pressure here. Hopefully won't be raising any burr. Right. Deeper on there. I mean, I can feel the edge at this stage. I don't really need the loupe, but it's good to check you're hitting it evenly and you're not polishing the bevel unevenly. And it's also interesting to see the result of the different use of pressure. Anyway, you're not hitting the bevel, etc. So it's still a useful tool, especially if I go on through that progression, which generally on food, I think the 5K, I mean that should be, yeah, the hairs are they just ping off as you they're just pinging off as you put the blade up to there. It's a nice toothy edge. I think that would be a good edge on food, but to refine it a little bit further, I can go straight to the chromium oxide on balsa and give it like 20 laps. Tom gave me this bit. Thank you, Tom. I've got another one as well now, but actually this one, it's just soaked in loads of chromium oxide, I think. And it's quite handy to hold like that. If you've not tried chromium oxide on balsa, I really recommend it. On that one I've got, that's long strider strop. Absolutely brilliant. Very fast cutting with the blue compound, especially on the coarse side. It works fantastically on convex edges, but where I'm doing straight levels that are quite refined, very thin in the first place, I've added that smooth leather side there, so I'm not rounding anything off. It's just a case of deburring. I'm not even really doing any cutting on it. It's just for a little deburr. And then this chromium oxide, to me, has just got it's less polish, I think, than the blue, the Starkey blue, but that is slightly preferable for food cutting tasks. It just feels a bit more aggressive. I wouldn't say toothy because you're probably talking about 20k or something, but and that's, I mean, it was probably there after a few strokes, but I mean that should be just, I should be able to feel that now, and it's, yeah, I mean it just sticks. You can just feel it sticking in your skin straight away, and I've got very little hair left here, but I mean that just, I'm not even touching the surface of my skin, and it's just sort of topping the hair off. It's just very nicely shot now, which is a nice buzz. So yeah, my stone's there, and hopefully that helps someone out. And then thank you very much. Bye.